A few months ago, I had the idea to make a video in which I showcased a few classes of extinct British steam locomotives in TS Classic, but the project ended up going no further than recording footage on Western Lines of Scotland for the segment on a Scottish 060 tank engine. Rather than letting that footage go to waste, I thought I would make use of it in a conventional review of the locomotive in question. This is the Caledonian Railway 782 class, brought to TS by Caledonia Works. The 782 class was designed by John F. McIntosh, with 138 examples built at St Rollick's Works between 1896 and 1913. They were intended primarily for shunting or short-haul freight duties, and initially lacked air brakes, although some examples were fitted with Westinghouse air pumps to allow them to work on station pilot duties. All of the 782s were outshopped with conventional lipped chimneys, but some were fitted with stovepipe chimneys later in life, and one example was experimentally fitted with a spark arrestor at some point in the 1930s. The class was originally numbered sequentially from 782 to 918. They were a successful and long-lasting design, with the whole class surviving into London, Midland and Scottish Railway ownership upon the grouping in 1923, after which they were renumbered in the 16240 to 16376 range. Throughout their lives, they could be found working in places such as Glasgow, Ayr, Dundee, Aberdeen, Perth and Inverness. There's also photographic evidence out there to show that they also went as far south as Carlisle Kingmore. As for a power rating, they were classified as 3F under the LMS. All the 782s made it through World War II and into the British Railways era, in which they had 40,000 added to their numbers. Based on real photographs that I found during research for this video, a few 782s had their smokebox number plates placed on one of the straps, but most of them had their plates higher up, above the straps. They were still used as shunters into the 1960s, and in 1962, one member of the class, number 56347, got to haul the Scottish Rambler rail tour on the Esthwaite Branch, which opened in 1906, but had closed to passenger trains in 1931. 1962 was the last year in which any 782s were in service, withdrawals having started in 1959 with the advent of diesel locomotives. One member of the class was sold into industrial service with the Wemyss Private Railway and became their number 21. She arrived on the WPR in 1954, and I've found one source stating that she was scrapped in 1959, but another says 1965, and I don't know which one is right. In any case, the locomotive was put up for sale in the hopes of being preserved, and she even got repainted in a striking blue livery to try and increase her appeal, but sadly it wasn't to be, and she was ultimately scrapped. It's a shame that so many Caledonian classes didn't survive the cutter's torch, especially the Cardines, but at least there are 3 individual CR locomotives in preservation, and that's better than nothing. The Caledonian Railway 782 class is one of CW's oldest add-ons, having been released way back in November 2018. As of late June 2026, she is still available to buy from CW's website for £15. If memory serves me right, the 782 was one of numerous Caledonian Railway add-ons that I picked up in early 2020, when Chris offered all of his Caledonian packs free of charge as a goodwill gesture. For context, this was back in the early days of the Petunia and Nutty destroyed everyone's muffins inside Cuddles. When you go to place a 782 on the track in the scenario editor, you won't find her in the Caledonia Works folder. Instead, she's in the Victorian Lad folder. And for reference, The add-on is supplied in an RWP file as opposed to a .exe installer, which is what the newer add-ons use. I always use a program called 7-zip to extract folders from the RWP files, then I drag them into my Railworks file directory. An example of a typical file directory is on screen now. As for what's included in the 782 pack, I'll do what I always do and start off by going through the livery selection, which is as follows. Caledonian Railway goods black, LMS pre-1927 black, LMS post-1927 black, British Railways transitional black with Gill Sans lettering, 2 variants of the standard BR black with either the early or late crest, and Weems Private Railway blue in clean or weathered states. Before I forget, it's worth noting that the post-1927 LMS and BR liveries all have an alternative variant fitted with a stovepipe chimney, as opposed to the original lipped chimney, which I honestly prefer over the stovepipe. Your mileage may vary, but personally, I consider the 782s to be decent looking locomotives for the most part, although the water tanks look disproportionately large to the point where they remind me of the 439 class 044 tank. Now that I think about it, the 782 kind of looks like a smaller version of the chunky 492 class 080 tank. To add, the 782s are covered by one of EpicBanastard's texture patches, which can be downloaded from the Golden Age Development's website. As for features on this locomotive, I reckon they're decent for an add-on released so long ago, but CW and SimNation have come a long way since then. As for what the 782 does have, this includes, but is not limited to, numerous cab camera views, animated rod inside the Westinghouse air pump, customizable headlamp arrangement at both ends of the locomotive, with appropriate Caledonian or LMS lamps depending on the variant, a realistic fully detailed cab, animated valve gear inside the frames, although it's difficult to see, custom crew figures modelled by Smokebox, which reminds me of wanting to review Union Pacific 119 at some point. And lastly, sounds recorded from the preserved 044 tank number 419 and 060 tender engine number 828. And now for one of my favourite parts of a Steam Locomotive review in TS Classic, testing a given locomotive to see just how fast she can go. In this case, I ran a 782 from Great Yarmouth to Reedham on Armstrong Powerhouse's Wherry Lines route, with a set of GAD Stroudley coaches in tow. I don't recall using the Wherry Lines for a speeder test before, but regardless, it's a decent route for that sort of run since it is mostly flat and has numerous long straight sections, ideal conditions for thrashing a locomotive. On this run to Reedham, I got the 782 up to an absolute top speed of 54.6 miles per hour, which is faster than I was expecting. Before moving on to the conclusion, I should add that the locomotive's manual doesn't mention an ideal fire mass, but she steams so well that you could set the fire mass anywhere between 770 and 860 pounds and she'll be right as rain, as opposed to right as April sun in Cuba. Fortunately, the safety valves are not overwhelmingly loud on the 782 class. In closing, it's been fun revisiting the Caledonian Railway 782 class, and I was impressed by how well she performed on the Lyme Regis branch and the climb to Stainmore Summit, not to mention the speed test from Great Yarmouth to Reedham. But if you're interested in picking up an 060 tank engine from CW, I would recommend some of their more modern add-ons, of which a few examples are the London, Brighton and South Coast Railway E1 class, Great Western Railway 1361 class, North Eastern Railway E1/LNER J72 class, and Elbe SCR E2 class. These locomotives all have Locomotion 2.0 scripting. As for where I'd rate the Scottish 060 tank as she is now, I'll settle for 6.67 out of 10. The Cali 782 add-on may be old, but to be fair, she still has her charms, as it were. If you've stuck around to the end of the video, you win tickets for a train running from London to Paris that was endorsed by David Bowie. It's the Euro Starman.